Sunday Night Football, we got Caleb Williams, the #1 overall pick from this past year's draft, taking on CJ Stroud, the 2nd overall pick from last year. And the Texans won 19-13. This was not an impressive showing out of Caleb Williams. He got sacked 7 times. He threw 2 interceptions. And I felt in the first half of this game, Caleb Williams looked pretty good. He was calm. He was collected inside of the pocket. But in the second half, things just completely fell apart for him. He was making a lot of throws that made you go, what the hell are you doing, Caleb? This is the NFL. It's not college football anymore. You can't get outside the pocket and then throw the ball across your body to the other side of the football field, man. That slides when you're playing college ball, but in the NFL, you can't win playing backyard football that way. And Caleb Williams just tried to do way too much tonight. The offensive line didn't do him no favors. They also couldn't establish the ground game. DeAndre Swift was really good last season with the Philadelphia Eagles, but so far with Chicago, he's been close to irrelevant. And this offensive line, as much as people made it out that Justin Fields held the football too long, this O-line isn't helping Caleb Williams. They allowed him to just get absolutely obliterated back there. There were a couple of scuffles that were taking place. I mean, the Chicago Bears offense is a huge mess. And I would have expected more considering the amount of talent that they have surrounded Caleb Williams with. Now, we didn't see Keenan Allen play tonight, but we did see Rome Odunze and DJ Moore on the field. And I just feel like the scheme and the play calling hasn't done a good job of helping Caleb Williams' development this early into his career. You know, you think they would try to ease him into the game, but instead, you know, they're just putting everything on his shoulders. And the reason why I was so high on Caleb Williams coming into this year was that the supporting cast that he had around him should have taken a little bit of the burden off him to the point where he didn't have to be Superman. Tonight, he was trying to be Superman against one of the best defenses in the NFL. And he had a couple of good drives. He played pretty well the last couple of minutes leading up to halftime. But on his final drive of this game to send it to overtime, he didn't really have too much of a chance. And moving forward, I do expect Caleb Williams to improve when it comes to his play. He played way better tonight than what he did against the Tennessee Titans. Minus the interceptions, he was a little bit more aggressive. It looked like he was a little bit more comfortable. He was starting to better adjust to the speed of the NFL, but he still has a long ways to go. And right now, I don't think the Chicago Bears are going to have a winning record, and they probably are going to be in the market for another head coach. Matt Eberflus is a mastermind on defense, and Chicago's defense kept them in this game. But there's only so much you can do when your offense just can't really do a good job of being efficient and putting together efficient drives. And this offensive line was just absolutely terrible for Caleb Williams. But there were moments when I felt Caleb Williams should have did a better job at getting the ball out fast. He was holding on to the football a little bit longer than what he should have, trying to wait for big plays to develop. And that's something that you see very common with these rookie quarterbacks. When they enter the league, they all want to get the big play. They don't want to take what the defense gives them. And when he was trying to hit Rome Odunze on the sideline in the second half, that ended up getting picked off when he had guys underneath who were wide open. Now, for the Houston Texans, to me, this is the best team in the AFC right now. They are the most complete team in this conference. They got a great defense. You saw Derek Stingley get an interception. You saw how nasty that pass rush was tonight. And offensively, you know, this wasn't the best performance that we're going to see out of the Texans for the majority of this year. I expect this to be one of the best offenses in the NFL, but the Bears do have a really good defense. They got a really good secondary, and I felt like Chicago is one of the few teams that are going to match up well with what the Houston Texans have offensively from a personnel standpoint, because they got three great receivers: Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins, who stole the show tonight. He had a one-handed catch. He was looking like prime Calvin Johnson out there, in my opinion. He had 135 receiving yards, a touchdown, 8 catches. I mean, Nico Collins was going under the radar, in my opinion, going into this year, because everybody was talking about Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and the addition of Joe Mixon, but Nico Collins didn't really get brought up too much. Now, when it comes to Chicago's secondary, I felt like they did do a pretty good job of limiting the amount of big plays that Houston was able to generate, because Chicago is just as deep when it comes to corner and at safety as what the Houston Texans are when it comes to their wide receiver room. So I felt like this was a pretty good matchup in terms of the Chicago Bears talent in the secondary versus the Houston Texans talent that they have at wide receiver. But ultimately, what decided this game was that Caleb Williams couldn't take care of the football. He was making rookie mistakes out there, and the offensive line couldn't keep him upright, and he also couldn't establish the run game. And I was surprised that this game was as close as what it was, considering, how inefficient Chicago was offensively, which was a testament to how good their defense was. On one of Caleb Williams' interceptions, they held the Texans to only a field goal. So moving forward, Caleb Williams has to do better. The play calling has to do better. And offensively, his whole entire supporting cast has to step it up. And I was watching Hard Knocks, a little bit of it. I didn't watch the whole entire thing, but one episode was really fascinating to me because Matt Eberflus brought in Nick Saban to talk to Caleb Williams, and he also was giving some advice from Saban about how to go about helping Caleb Williams in his development. And one thing that Nick Saban told Matt Eberflus is that you always want to be around the quarterback. You always want to be talking to him. You want to be behind him in practice. When he makes a mistake, you want to pull him over to the sideline. You want to ask him what was he seeing, what was going wrong, and how he can correct that. And with him being a defensive-minded head coach, I felt like that was a pretty good strategy. That's pretty good advice that Nick Saban gave him. Well, none of that has translated. Because at the end of the day, when you have a young player like Caleb Williams that was able to get away with so much in college due to how skilled he was, once you get to the NFL, there's going to be moments where you're going to have to F around and find out. And Caleb Williams had those moments tonight where, the throws that he was able to make routinely in college across his body on the opposite hash, all these wild throws, you can't pull this stuff off in the NFL because these players are too athletic, too skilled, and the speed of the game is way too fast to make these kinds of plays consistently. So overall, I really believe that Caleb Williams, these first 2 weeks in the NFL, have been a massive disappointment. I was expecting way better play out of him than what we've seen so far. And I don't want to hear any Bears fans defending him, talking about how he's just a rookie, you got to give him more time. This dude was labeled a generational quarterback. He was getting compared to Patrick Mahomes. When you get that generational quarterback label and you go to a situation that on paper looks good, you just expect more. You didn't have Keenan Allen, but you had DJ Moore. You had Rome Odunze. I just expect better play out of Caleb Williams. And there were moments where he did look pretty good. He did look solid. And he looked better than what he did against Tennessee. But, I'm just a little bit disappointed with how his career has started out so far in the NFL, because I thought that he would be ready for the adjustment. I didn't think that we would have to go through a month or two of growing pains with Caleb Williams making the adjustment from the college level to the NFL. But Shane Waldron, being somebody that spent a lot of time with the Seattle Seahawks during the prime days of the Russell Wilson era, Caleb Williams kind of has a lot of similarities to Russell Wilson's style of play. So I thought that Shane Waldron would be a good fit for being able to help Caleb Williams have a good, successful start to his NFL career. But so far, man, the play calling has not been that good. And I remember most of the years when Russ was in Seattle after Marshawn Lynch. They struggled to run the football. And you can tell that he has brought over those same issues from Seattle to Chicago because the run game is just non-existent. And when you got a rookie quarterback, you want to help him out by being able to establish the run, take the ball out of his hands a little bit, not have to overly rely on him. But Chicago did that tonight, and they put themselves into a hole that they kind of had a hard time digging themselves out of, despite how many times their defense was able to bail them out. And when you're going up against a team like Houston, some of the plays that Caleb Williams was trying to make, you just can't make those decisions.